What's good, YouTube? Welcome back. Today it's a LazyDaze channel and we're back at it again doing some more history reaction for you guys today, and it is some more History Marshes content for you, and it is their series Hannibal, and it is part 16, the Battle of Cornus, 216 BC, their Second Punic War series. It's an amazing series. I'm really enjoying it, finding out some amazing content that we definitely wouldn't have without you guys' suggestion. So if you haven't already, head over to their page, links in the description box down below. If you're enjoying our content, then like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. But we are going to jump straight into this one.
Let's do this.
By the autumn period of 216 BC, Hannibal was consolidating his power base in southern Italy. His main army at Capua stood at around 40,000 men, including additions from his Samnite allies. His brother Mago, now on his way south with 1,200 Numidians, would recruit an additional 17,000 Lucanians and Brutians, and bring his own force up to over 18,000 troops.
Nice. Yeah, nice indeed.
Opposing them, Rome scrambled to raise new legions over the coming months. An impressive 80,000 troops would be put to field in Italy, with the majority concentrated in the south. But despite the Roman numerical strength exceeding that of their enemy, many of these were inexperienced recruits who felt abject terror at the thought of meeting Hannibal in battle.
Yeah, all their veterans.
Worse, in some of the settlements of central Italy, the number of Roman and allied fighting men began to dwindle, which was a testament to the blood toll exacted on them by Hannibal's tactical superiority and his wealth of ideas on the battlefield. Fabius Maximus, the father of the Fabian strategy, would again be elected consul for the next 2 years. He would revert to avoiding conflict with the Carthaginian general to preserve the troops and give Rome's manpower time to recover.
Nice, very nice.
But while the war was thus far mostly dominated by the campaign of Hannibal in Italy, as the year 215 rolled around, the Second Punic War would spread across the Mediterranean.
Oh.
While Hannibal worked to add to his list of allies, his other objective was reinforcements. His brother Mago advanced south and besieged Patalia. Together with Consentia, these two cities were among the most prominent in Brutium, boasting a developed infrastructure, imposing walls, and a bustling city culture. In its quest to establish dominion over Italy, Rome favored the urban centers of Brutium and had long been replacing their local ruling elite with the pro-Roman aristocracy. In turn, the pro-Roman factions of Patalia and Consentia treated the less urbanized communities in the region with disdain, which created a rift among Brutians. Needless to say, these internal divisions suited Rome as they made the region easier to control. But Mago now used this hostile factionalism to his advantage. He circulated news that Patalia was besieged, prompting thousands of Brutians, who were angry at the city for siding with Rome, to join Hannibal. With his work in Brutium complete, Mago left Hanno the Elder in charge of the army and embarked for Carthage to seek support for the campaign in Italy. By this stage, neither side was the undisputed master of the sea. While Rome had overall superiority, the Carthaginian navy had significantly recovered from the setback earlier in the war. Both could patrol far into enemy waters and raid coastal towns, but lacked the strength to rule the waves of the western Mediterranean. But with most of Brutium now under Hannibal's control, there was less risk for transporting troops from Africa to Italy. And with this, Mago disembarked in Carthage.
Okay. Yeah, how's the talk going to go with the Senate is my question.
Murmurs reverberated in the packed Senate hall. In attendance, all of Carthage's notables anxiously waited. Then Margo rose to speak, presenting before the Senate the progress of the campaign in Italy. Colleagues, countrymen, since crossing the Alps, Hannibal had won several victories, including 3 great pitched battles against Rome's main armies, 2 of which were completely destroyed and their camps looted. And now the Romans avoid fighting us altogether out of fear. 200,000 Roman fighting men are slain and 50,000 prisoners are taken. Italy is in a state of revolt, and the south had gone over to Hannibal. With a single army, Hannibal had achieved all of this against several Roman armies.
Yes, he did.
Margo then turned away from the map to present to the Senate a bag filled with hundreds of golden rings belonging to the Roman aristocracy that fell at Cannae. He asked for funds and additional armies to be sent to Italy. With another 20 to 30,000 troops at his disposal, Hannibal would break Rome.
Wow.
Margo's presentation suggested that with the 18,000-strong army that he himself had recruited, consistent pressure could be applied in Bruttium until the last of the cities loyal to Rome either came to Hannibal's side or were taken by force. Another army of 20,000 from Carthage could take and hold Apulia and its vital ports, thereby cutting Rome's ability to contest the waters of the Ionian Sea. This would open lines of communication between Hannibal and a likely ally, Philip V of Macedon, enabling uninterrupted transport of ships, provisions, and troops. Finally, stationed in Campania with his main host, Hannibal would have complete control over southern Italy. With 3 armies in close proximity, capable of quickly combining their forces, as well as controlling their respective areas individually, Carthaginian authority over local communities and cities would be absolute. As such, Hannibal could fully exploit southern Italy's manpower and resources to beat the Romans at their own game, the war of attrition, and could use his tactical brilliance to dominate the Romans on the battlefield.
He had an incredible tactic.
Hearing Margo's report, most of the Senate rejoiced. But, as fortunes of war would have it, Hannibal's worst enemies were not in Rome, but in Carthage. When Hanno II stood up to speak, a heavy silence fell upon the room. He was an immensely powerful aristocrat and a veteran commander, albeit not a very competent one. Most of his wealth and political power was derived from his stake in the silver mines of Iberia and the heavy taxation he imposed on African tribes that lived on the vast expanses of land which he owned. As such, in the Senate he represented the interests of the wealthy, for whom it was profitable to sue for peace with Rome, even with unfavorable terms for Carthage, because a peace agreement would enable Hanna and his supporters to assume their maritime commercial operations. In addition, their interests in rare metals is the reason why Hanna favored redirecting reinforcements to protect Iberia, and why he preferred territorial expansion not into Italy, but into Africa, where he and his powerful friends stood to profit from expanding their already endless tracts of taxable land.
Instead of dealing with the problem at hand.
These discrepancies between the interests of the super wealthy and the war effort of Carthage was what made Hanno the leading opponent of the Barca family and their war of conquest in Italy. He addressed Margo. You say the armies of the enemy are slain, yet you ask for more soldiers. You say the enemy camps are looted, yet you ask for corn and funds. I wonder, if you ask for all of this help, is Hannibal truthful about his victories? If he is, then I say he doesn't need help from us, and if he is not, then he doesn't deserve it. At hearing this, senators from the docks behind Hanno cheered him on. He continued, You say, Margo, that Roman power is annihilated and that Italy is in a state of revolt. I ask you then, has a single Roman or any of the 35 tribes come to our side? No, they have not, Margo replied. Hanno went on. Then there are still too many Romans left. Do you know then, Margo, is the enemy's will to fight broken? Have they approached Hannibal for peace? I do not know, Margo answered. A truthful answer, given that he parted ways with Hannibal soon after the Battle of Cannae, and was unaware if any negotiations with Rome were taking place.
Yep, okay.
Well then, Hanno concluded, with many Romans still in the fight and no treating of peace, you have made no progress since the start of the war. I say, if Hannibal's victories are true, he should seek terms with Rome and not ask for help from Carthage. For if he cannot obtain peace after his supposed victories, what terms will he be able to obtain if his fortunes against the Romans change? It seems to me that we are not discussing peace, but only talking about helping the agenda of one man, Hannibal. Hanno clearly showed in this senatorial meeting why he was one of the most capable orators of his time. But as clever as he was in discrediting Hannibal, the supporters of the Barcids were outraged, and they had every reason to be. Hanno insisted that Carthage must negotiate with Rome, that peace was necessary, thereby implying that Carthage should not and cannot risk the consequences of losing the war, but must make peace now, while the going is good. If this fear of defeat ever reached the enemy, for the Romans it would be like smelling blood. Despite their setbacks against Hannibal, with such division among Carthage's top officials, the Romans would know that they had already won the war. So it's needless to say that Hanno's dissemination of this dangerous rhetoric directly undermined Carthage's war effort and perhaps its future as an imperial power. As Hannibal once said to his men, war is won by those who are ready to conquer or die, and Rome had already shown its readiness to conquer or perish. Carthage, having chosen to walk the path of empire for 600 years, had to show that same resolve if it was to be victorious and retain its imperial status. Hannibal's supporters further argued that, as the only man who showed consistent success in command, deep in enemy territory no less, he must be supported, even if Iberia was lost. In their view, to conquer a peace agreement at the gates of Rome meant that the withdrawal of Roman troops from Iberia could be demanded as a condition during negotiations, and Carthaginian dominance over the western Mediterranean could be restored. Amidst this ongoing political turmoil in Carthage, the majority of the Senate was nevertheless impressed enough with Margo's report to vote in favor of sending him back to Italy with an army and funds to aid Hannibal. A host of 12,000 African infantry, up to 6,000 Numidian cavalry, and around 40 elephants were to be assembled. But Hanno's political tentacles reached across the empire, and he would severely slow down the recruitment of Hannibal's reinforcements at every turn, prolonging the process for around 6 months.
Oh, get sliced in half.
Then, as the latter days of autumn brought with them the scent of the stinging coldness that was just around the corner, a message arrived from Sardinia. It was from Hampsicora of Cornus, a Sardo-Punic political leader and one of the richest landowners of Sardinia. Much of the island was still dominated by the Punic elite, especially along the western and southern coasts, which were part of the Carthaginian Empire for over 250 years, until Sardinia came under Roman control just 20 years ago, in 237 BC. This resulted in a strained relationship between the Romans and Sardinia's ruling class and its population. Occasional clashes flared up, but the legions were largely able to keep the peace and exploit the island's rich resources of grain, salt, wine, and olives, as well as several big mining operations of gold and silver, a valuable source for minting new currency, and lead, which was used in various fields of civil life, from crockery to water pipes. But most importantly, Sardinia was a vital point for controlling access to Roman waters and could serve to intercept Carthaginian shipping to the south. However,
Quite a
the
bit
situation
tricky.
was now ripe for revolt.
Fuck.
The ambassadors that carried the message pleaded for help.
What was that? Did you hear that mumbling? That mumbling was terrible.
What did you say?
I went to say strategic point, and it just come out as
The tism strikes again.
Tism.
And the Carthaginian Senate made a decision to mobilize another army of 12,000 infantry and 1,500 horse to be sent to Sardinia under the command of Hasdrubal the Bold. Meanwhile, on the restive island, Hampsicora was joined by Hanno of Tharos.
I'm pretty sure he had hair.
He didn't have hair. There's no way he had hair. He had hair. He had hair.
Thank you very much. It's not bold, bro.
Meanwhile, on the restive island, Hampsicora was joined by Hanno of Tharos. Their combined force motivated more cities to rise up, and some of the inland tribes pledged their support as well. Rebellion in Sardinia had begun.
Not looking
News
good
of the unrest had reached Praetor Quintus Mucius Scaevola, a member of the
What a
ancient and
name.
noble patrician family. He immediately sent word back to Rome, asking for help. The Roman legion under his command was under strength due to sickness that he too suffered from and was unable to perform his duties. Provisions and payments for the troops were irregular amidst the chaos of the war, which only made the situation worse. Upon receiving his message, the Roman Senate hurriedly sent Titus Manlius Torquatus with a small contingent and provisions to patch up the legion in Sardinia. Titus was a distinguished Roman politician, twice a consul in 235 and 224 BC, and a member of the Manlia family, one of the most important patrician families of the Republic. Once he disembarked at Cagliari, Titus temporarily assumed command, bringing news that more reinforcements would come next spring. But upon learning of the activities of the rebels, he realized that he would not be able to hold out through the winter. The legion was still under strength and in poor health. Worse, once the Sardo-Punic army fully mobilized, they would outnumber the Romans at least 2-1, and this ratio would rise to 4-1 if the Carthaginians managed to reach the island before winter. Something needed to be done now. So Titus took provisions to last a few days and gathered no more than 6,000 men that were fit to march towards Cornus. Meanwhile, Hampsicora journeyed into the Sardinian interior to recruit troops from the tribes that declared their support for the uprising.
Cornus.
He left his son Hiostus in charge of the 10,000-strong army, and
So I'm assuming he's going to Cornus to... I'm hoping a peace treaty, otherwise he's just grabbed 6,000 men and they're just going to get slapped.
He thinks 6,000 men can slap them.
I thought he was going to knock on the door or something.
I mean,
Can we
these
just have a
aren't
chat
Hannibal.
for the winter?
These aren't Hannibal.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
There's a possibility he's just going to be like, can we just leave it until spring?
I doubt they would do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, highly doubt that.
collection of provisions until he returned. But Titus was closing in fast.
Going for the fight.
He's going for the fight.
On approach, the numerical advantage of the Sardo-Punic army was clear. Tucked in between the sea to the west and the hills to the east, they held a strong position with the walls of Cornus behind them.
I don't mean shit.
But Titus observed that the enemy was not in full battle order, and that no archers were manning the walls. It appeared as if they were not expecting a battle. He ordered the Roman line forward. All too aware of the poor physical condition of his men, Titus slowed the advance to a crawl, making it easier for his tired troops to maintain their formation. He had hoped that by closing the distance he would unnerve the enemy and force them into committing themselves forward. If the Sardo-Punic troops broke formation to charge, this would give the compact Roman legion a chance. But Hiostus's orders were not to attack.
No, it's to form up.
Titus gradually halted his advance a mere stone's throw away from the opponent, yet they wouldn't move. Understanding that it would be impossible to dislodge a more numerous and better rested army from their defensive position, the Roman general resorted to harsh language. He berated Hiostus, questioning his bravery and his manhood.
Hey, sock out, lad.
Literally.
What
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
This is like two football teams at a train station on the either side of the platform just going at each other, just like, yeah, and what? Suck out.
That's it.
Suck
You ain't
out.
gonna come over here, cuz. What
You
are
ain't
you gonna
gonna come
do?
up them
What are
stairs,
you gonna do,
bloke.
fam?
Come on.
What are you gonna
come
do?
on. That's basically what he's doing. It's Millwall and Southend at the train station.
Some of the centurions joined in with their own insults. The laughter of the Roman troops could be heard inside the city. The young Sardo-Punic aristocrat was fuming. After a few minutes of this verbal barrage, he could take no more.
He fell for it.
Bellend.
With
That's
their
so
pride
funny.
bruised, Hiostus' men attacked with zest. The weary Roman line bore the initial brunt of the charge with some difficulty, but they held their nerve, encouraged by experienced centurions to stay compact behind their shields until the enemy ran
Go on,
out
boys.
of steam. Titus then gave the signal. The formation of the less disciplined Sardo-Punic troops quickly began to crumble against the advance of the veteran legionaries. Step by step, the Roman line trod forward, jabbing at the enemy from behind the wall of shields. It soon became clear that Hiostus' rash attack for the sake of saving face in front of his men was a bad decision.
Damn
By
straight
attacking
was
the
a bad
Roman
decision.
line, he abandoned his strong defensive position and trapped his own army between the enemy, the hills and the sea, and the walls of the city. Unable to escape, 5,700 Sardo-Punic troops, some 60% of his army, were cut down. But the exhausted Romans could fight no more and had begun taking losses as well.
You got lucky, mate.
Seeing that his men are at their limit, Titus
What,
pulled
Titus?
back.
Right. So, in that small period of time, they've just, so Millwall have got so annoyed what Southend have said. Millwall have come over and thought, let's have them. And they've not realised that Southend lot are still coming down the stairs, and now we've pushed them back. Now we've battered half of them, and we're like, right, train's here, boys, we need to back off slowly.
Train's coming, we gotta go.
And we've just smashed up 60% of them. How do you lose 60% of it because someone called you like I don't know, what were insults back in the day?
Oh, mate.
Thou tunic is too big.
Now tunic shall be too big.
Thou tunic shall be too big. I'm gonna
Fuck's
shout at
sake.
someone next time they piss me off. Thou tunic.
Now tunic is too big. How do you defuse the situation? They'll look at you and go, what the fuck are you on? Just walk away. You funny fucker, Jack. Oh.
The Roman victory at Cornus did not succeed in destroying one Sardo-Punic army before another one could be assembled, but it gave Titus some time to prepare for the next encounter. Many of his men died on the way back due to exhaustion and sickness, but Titus's swift action killed off some of the best troops that the rebel cities could levy and had put a dent in the morale of the Sardo-Punic army. Whatever troops Hampsicora recruited from the other cities and tribes further inland, he would now likely be more inclined to wait for the Carthaginian army to come to his aid than to take on the Romans himself. For now,
Lots of
the
players
Roman
on the
army
board
in
now.
Sardinia held on.
I would have gone scouting after him to see what's
Thank
going
you so
on.
much for watching. If you
Definitely.
enjoy our videos, click like and subscribe as a sacrifice to the gods of the algorithm.
So, Hanno II was nicknamed the Great for his conquests in Africa. During the First Punic War, he preferred the expansion against African tribes and was major opponent of Hamilcar Barca, Hannibal's father.
After the war, Hanno refused to pay the Barber mercenaries their due, causing the Mercenaries' War, in which he was unable to defeat them and had to be helped by Hamilcar Barca. Peak.
Hanno's political strength grew further due to his domination of the North African tribesmen. In the Second Punic War, he continued to oppose the war against Rome due to the economic interests of the wealthy elite. He would stifle Hannibal's efforts in Italy, much like he stifles his father's efforts in the First Punic War.
After Carthage's defeat in 202 BC, Hanno II would continue to prosper and was among the ambassadors who negotiated peace with the Romans.
Oh, okay. That is interesting. History Marsh has always given us additional information. They make some amazing content.
Yes.
I really enjoyed this
I love
episode.
this. I love this series.
I think this one was a bit of a build-up for the last few episodes. I think we've only got 2, so it's really sort of setting up the last few stages for this series. So I'm definitely looking forward to finding out what happens in the rest of this series and getting towards the end of it. And I know Jack is as well. If you guys are looking forward to our reactions, then like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. But we will catch you in the next video.
See you in a bit.